Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? What is up? And welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network, live on the Mightier 1090 ESPN. Thank you all, as always, for making us a part of your day. Get ready, prepped for the weekend, and we love being the show to carry you into the weekend. Little later than we were originally planning, but the schedule release was on Wednesday. Obviously, that's the talk of the town, so we're going to dive into that. Rams released like all other 32 teams did, their schedule release video on the dot at 5 o'clock. And we're going to get into that. It was much better than last year. We can at least attest to that. And so have some fun with that. And then also just talk kind of the schedule, the stretches, tough situations, all that, break down into it and have some fun with it. So joining me as always is my man, Ryan Skinny T. Anderson. My brother, what's going on? Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you as well. I'm going from yesterday, the heights of LA. We were visiting a very, very cool co-working space. Go check out a video I posted on my Twitter if you want to check that out.
Yeah.
We got treated very, very nicely by our tour guide, showing us the space. Had a nice time having some lunch together. But today I got to go to the other end. I'm going to the DMV. Not Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. I'm going to the dreaded California Department of Motor Vehicles today. So from the heights to the lows in LA in just one day.
I'm not sure there's a worse place that you have to go. I'm trying to think if there is like a worse place to have to go as a citizen than the DMV.
I had to pay a parking. My registration was, or my insurance was out of date in my car. I was pulled over by a police officer because I glanced at my phone apparently. So I had to go down and pay a ticket once, and that actually wasn't terrible.
At the courthouse or at the DMV?
At the courthouse, yeah.
At which courthouse is your local one? Is there one in Highland Park?
Downtown LA.
Downtown LA. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The courthouse, I guess that's probably a worse one because usually if you're there, it's for you're in trouble, where the DMV, you feel like you're in trouble because it's miserable, but typically it's just renewing something or registering. But anyway, good luck with that. I feel for you. Hopefully it's quick and painless. Luckily I have AAA, so we get to do everything through AAA. I haven't been in the DMV in years. It's beautiful. So shameless plug there for AAA. They should be paying us for this, but if you don't have that, get AAA, and then you don't have to go to the DMV. Fun fact. But anyway, show as always. Speaking of paying the bills, brought to you by BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Little is that the bone marrow going down the wrong pipe? It looks like. The breakfast of champions there didn't go all that too well, huh? But betonline.ag, tell them the guys at the Rams Skinny sent you. You all right? You good?
I'm good.
Is that the bone juice, the bone marrow?
The bone broth, yeah.
Bone broth?
My breakfast, yeah.
I love that. Even when we were in Phoenix for the Super Bowl, we made a store run to stock our Airbnb, and we're like, all right, we need booze. We'll get dinner. And Skinny T with the text to my wife, like, oh, don't forget some bone broth for breakfast. Not a text you expect to get.
I'm not hungry. I'm never hungry in the morning. I don't like eating breakfast right away in the morning. So I found that bone broth is just a nice way to start your day without having to eat.
Yeah, it is delightful, actually. I enjoyed it when I tried it from you. I need to actually start doing it. So yeah, anyway. All right. Well, let's just talk about the release video first, and we'll get into the actual schedule and kind of the breakdown. So before we kind of go into some of the intricacies of it, because there was a lot packed into this video. I mean, touche to the Rams media team. I thought they did a tremendous job. Like we said, much better than last year. It was a really cool, car theme. It had kind of and obviously they're not going for Miami Vice or Grand Theft Auto because it's LA, but it had that kind of feel where, you're there in the garage, souping up the car. It's cruising all through the country in different spots. But what were just your overall thoughts of the overall video?
Well, I mean, the first time you watch it, it goes by so quickly. It's, 18 weeks in 3 minutes and 18 seconds, I think, totally. Mm-hmm. But I thought, capturing just the LA vibe, just great. I thought it was the slick production value. Probably one of the coolest videos out there that I saw. You watch the Chargers. It's a Sims theme. I mean, The Sims is a fine game, but it's certainly not. I wouldn't categorize that as cool.
Yeah,
but they got
it
the
was
nifty.
funny, but yeah, it didn't have the cool factor the Rams did for sure.
Yeah, Nipsey Hussle with the soundtrack behind it. The lowrider, just a cross generations, across cultures, just a symbol of Southern California cool. It made me think of all those 90s rap videos that I would watch on MTV with my sister in the summer times because we weren't
Nice.
supposed to be
You
watching MTV.
really showing our age there, dropping MTV music videos. I bet half the kids watching this don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it was 92, 93, 94 probably when like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre videos were coming out with the lowriders. I was like 10 years old, probably a bit young.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was the
That's why
90s.
you're so cultured.
I was left alone, all day long in the summertime. So, but yeah, then the reference right off the top with the Straight Outta Compton album cover reference with the 5 or 6 different Rams players right there. So yeah, I mean, I've been going through and rewatching it. I'm writing a long article, just like highlighting all of the Easter eggs that you may have missed. So definitely check that out. It's taken me longer than I expected, but yeah, it's really densely packed. There's some nice subtle jabs at the other fan bases and other teams. A really clever Kirk Cousins jab there for the Vikings game. So I was really impressed with it. Yeah, keep an eye out for that article. Any highlights for you?
Yeah. The article is going to be great because you really dove into it and got some great information on what is all there. So, I'd love to, I'll talk from him. I'd love to hear your, like, so far anyway, that you found your favorite little Easter egg, as they like to call them, or favorite little nugget. But overall, it was, you see these videos that these teams release, and obviously immediately everyone's like, oh, that was terrible, that was good. But I think it really shows like how much intricate work goes into these. I mean, this is a 3-minute video, and this is what a lot of people don't understand in video production, because we do video production here at LAFB, not to that grand scale, but I mean, video production is an intense, laborious, long venture, and a 3-minute video like that probably took them, weeks to a month to really, like, and you see how much they packed into this 3-minute video, and not just the thought behind it, and like, okay, here's the poking fun we want to have, like, here's the design we want, here's the to mix with the music that we want, here's the theme that we want, and then to actually pull it off. So I thought it was just a really, really well done job. They got a shout out from Mike Florio. He's usually hating on the Rams, and he called it his favorite video of the release. So some love from PFT and Mike Florio. But yeah, I thought overall they just knocked out of the park. It was a lot of fun. I need to watch it more. I've only watched it a few times because I think I've missed so much. But I think I'm just waiting for your article so then I can digest it all. But yeah, what was your so far, like, favorite little nugget?
Well, I will say that my piece should be considered a companion piece. My article should be considered a companion piece to it. So, watch the video with my article, and you'll catch it all. Some of my favorite ones right off the bat. The Detroit Lions one is just great. It's basically Eminem's discography. He's got all sorts of references to Eminem. The Guess Who's Back album cover is referenced in there. A couple of his lyrics on a newspaper, and then the Stafford field. I saw online that Detroit fans are getting a little too upset about that. Referencing Stafford's winning record. I think he was 41-42 while he was a Lion at Stafford Field, at Ford Field, or wherever they
we'll call it Stafford Field. That's fine. Yeah, sure, we can do that.
I'll say his winning record had nothing to do with him.
Yeah,
there might have been some team and some coaching problems there, so they should calm down. Cardinals reference the Study Hall Stadium, a nice shot at Kyler Murray's study habits or lack thereof.
Yeah, video gaming. Yeah, love that.
Yeah. So what else do I got on here? The LA River is featured in there, which I just love that as an icon from movies going back to Greece and movies like Drive and To Live and Die in LA and Dark Knight Rises.
All of them.
Yeah, the Miami
massive
one,
areas.
the Miami one's actually got some real deep cuts. So that one they lean directly into the Grand Theft Auto theme. They pull into the garage in that one. Sean McVay is the mechanic, kind of in the background. And they reference the Jalen Ramsey trade. So Cinco's graffiti on the outside. So number 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was traded to Miami. So a little bit of a reunion there. But that pick that they picked up for trading Jalen Ramsey was used to get Byron Young. And they select Byron Young as an upgrade to the car, and then he pops into the seat. So that's pretty cool. That's how deep. That's how deep it is, though. This is it's like one of those movies you rewatch and you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's funny that you bring that up because obviously at the time of the trade, it was deemed as like, oh, I mean, it was clearly a cap casualty getting rid of Ramsey for what they got back, but now you see the after effects, and it's only been 1 year, but because they needed to shed cap and it seemed like Ramsey's time was done, it's like you would take that all the time now. You got Byron Young out of it. I think that was a fairly good trade then for both teams. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is obviously a better player right now still, but Byron Young has a lot of promise, and I think it worked out for the Rams.
Yeah. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Any other ones you want to plug, or are we good to just kind of then dissect kind of these games a little bit more?
Yeah, let's jump into the schedule, the actual schedule.
Yeah. So hats off to the Rams. Man, whenever I wear a hat, it really shows how like bald I am when I take it off. Hats off to the Rams. Great video release. A lot of fun. Let us know what you guys think of it. If you loved it, if you hated it, drop it in the comments below. If you're on our Rams LAFB YouTube page, if you are on that page, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're not, head to Rams LAFB and you can do it there, or on LAFBnetwork.com, or if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, we do appreciate it. But let us know what you think, because it was a lot of fun. So looking at the schedule, and we've talked about games we're looking forward to, so we're not got to go too in depth here. We've talked about quarterbacks that are going to play and whatnot, but I think what now we see these stretches that they have to go on, and let's just start at the very beginning, because we were hoping the Rams would play the Lions on Thanksgiving. Thought that would be a ton of fun. We knew it was back in Detroit, so it's like, what better time to get the Rams on Thanksgiving and whatnot. But they ended up getting them on the opening weekend, the opening Sunday night primetime football game at Stafford Field in Detroit. What's your thoughts on the Rams opening against the Lions? So the last game against the Lions was last game in 2024 was against the Lions, and now their first game in 2024 is against the Lions.
I mean, it's so fitting that was able to work out, that they kick it off where they ended. So much stuff left on the field there. From crowd booing Stafford. His feelings getting hurt by that. Tyler Higbee going down. With a a not thoughtful hit. I guess I'll call it that. I don't want to call it a dirty hit, because that implies some intent that he was trying to hurt him. But and then Jonah Jackson coming over from Detroit as well. How will that factor in? So yeah, I think, and this is the Lions are a Super Bowl contender. They're definitely going to make the playoffs. They're most likely going to make the playoffs, I should say. So, this is an NFC game that is going to matter regardless of who the opponent is. This is, the Rams' playoff chances are. I just saw it this morning. They're sitting somewhere in the 45% is where they're placed is in terms of making the playoffs.
Okay.
So NFC games, especially against contenders, are going to matter a whole bunch. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not Thanksgiving, this is a great opener. There's obviously a lot of emotion from that last matchup, and it'll probably spill over into this one. And ironically, being back, in Detroit, so they get it back to back there, and for a regular season, and we talked about it during the playoff game. I'm very just surprised still at and a lot of it's on Twitter. So, I mean, that's not the real world. There's a lot of, other fans that are not on Twitter that probably feel differently. But based on what we saw in the stadium in January, it seems to be pretty aligned. But it's just surprising to me how much like hate that city now has for Stafford. Like it's wild to me. Like I understand, like, he ended up leaving and, they didn't actually win anything with him there. But, I feel like the guy deserves some flowers or something. Like, you don't have to love the guy, but it's vitriol now. And we talked about it, I think, last week about this new kind of found rivalry between the cities of Detroit and LA. And it is alive and well based on when this schedule came out and seeing the week one. And, there's all the stuff we're seeing on Twitter of, Lions people saying that, and Goff gets his new contract extension, and Lions fans saying that, Lions fleeced the Rams in that trade and this and that. And I don't know. I mean, we've talked about it a bunch, but why not? It's kind of the hot topic. We can double down on a little bit. Like, your thoughts on that? Like, just this truly is now, I think, a rivalry. Like LA, Detroit, Rams, Lions, Stafford, Goff. Like, this is a real, legit rivalry, and it could even survive even when Stafford does retire, because Goff's obviously going to play another probably 5 to 8 years in good fashion. So, I mean, just your thoughts on that, and just how much this rivalry is real.
Yeah, it's a funny one that's developed. Obviously, when you got a team like San Francisco or Seattle, when they were firing off in the division, it's just that's an obvious one. This one, it only once you get below the surface, that first level, and then you see all the ties that bind. Brad Holmes coming out of the Rams organization, all those other things that we've mentioned. It's it's the perfect storm. And on one hand, I can see where the Lions fans are coming from, because Stafford did want out, and now they've really come into their own and become a really good winning football team under Dan Campbell, which everybody kind of laughed at him initially for his kind of meathead footballness, but he's proved to be incredibly smart, and this franchise is proving to be incredibly smart. And that's what breeds this, is that Lions fans finally get this taste of what it's like to be, have a good, smart football team that's making the right moves, doing the right things. You can say whatever you want about the Goff contract, big or small. You got to pay the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I just, rivalries are great for football, and I just hope that the personal animus calms down just a hair, and it goes back to just being about football.
Yeah. We see this. I mean, you mentioned, and everyone knows them. There's no secret, all the ties between these two teams. But we see all the time rivalries happen that they don't stand the test of time because they're not divisional, but they last a decade or 15 years. Like I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like Broncos and Patriots had a really good rivalry for some time. I think that's pretty much kind of dead now. I don't think the fan bases still like each other, but it's not like what it used to be when it was Manning, Brady, when, obviously the Broncos hired Josh McDaniels from the Patriots. He screwed the Broncos over, went back to the Patriots. Wes Welker, Aqib Talib were both on the Patriots, then both came to the Broncos. Like, that's a little bit what's happened with Lions and Rams. Like, not anyone screwing each other over to the extent that McDaniels did, but the ties, the lines, the fact that these teams are going to face each other now, it feels like in the playoffs seemingly almost every year, and potentially in the regular season every year if these schedules keep happening kind of how they are. And so it's great for the sport. It's great for these two cities. I love it. It's a ton of fun. Like I said, I don't get the hate Stafford's getting. And I mean, basically it's one thing to say, you left us, you didn't want to be here anymore, we're moving on. It's another thing to say, like, you didn't do anything for us for the 13 years you were here. Like, you didn't win anything while you're, like, I'm seeing that. It's like, are Miami fans doing that to Dan Marino because they didn't win? Or are they just like, yeah, Dan Marino's dead to us, he didn't win anything? Or, you can go down the list of great quarterbacks that didn't win the big one. Like, and it's just, that's what's wild to me. Like, I get it. You've moved on, great. But to say, like, oh yeah, you didn't mean anything to us for the 13 years, like you weren't the reason even why we were good sometimes, like, that's bizarre to me.
It's the sour grapes of it all. You see your ex with her new fella, and he's, got a better job or better looking or whatever. You're just gonna feel gonna feel a little bit you're gonna feel a certain way, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I wonder too, and then we'll move on. But
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the hate too, which is so funny because at the time they were rooting for him, but the fact that he won in year one in LA, when it happened, it seemed like all Detroit was rooting for him. And then I think after it happened, they were like, wait on, hold a minute. He left us and immediately got like the better wife, like upgraded. Because you think about it, like, and I'm not trying to compare to Joe Montana. And it's a very different scenario because Montana won 4 Super Bowls for the Niners. But when he left, which was more of mutual because they had, Steve Young in the wings. But if he would have gone to Kansas City and won 2 Super Bowls in Kansas City, I wonder if there wouldn't be animosity. Obviously, I know he's one of the greatest ever and an absolute legend in San Francisco. But I wonder if there'd be some mixed emotions like, man, you left and you went and, like Brady, for instance, like he leaves. He's still the greatest Patriot. Everyone loves him. But there might be some people like, I don't know. I think I'm probably spinning my wheels here, but I think the fact that he won so quickly, maybe that aided to the fact that they're like dislike him even more. If he wouldn't have won yet, they might still be rooting for him. Who knows?
Oh, absolutely. And if he ended up on a trash franchise, it would be, they'd be just fine with it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, they'd still be like, look what you left. You left us and now you're in trash. Whereas the fact that he's on, a $13 million home in beautiful Los Angeles with a Super Bowl ring, it adds to it. So anyway, enough of that. Great rivalry. Love it. LA versus Detroit. We are here for it. Are we going to be there week 1? Are we going out there to Detroit? There's so many good away games. We talked about it often. There's so many good away games to go to.
That would be
going to go to one. LA football fans, we are going to one, and we want to bring a bunch of you with us. So let's do a fun. So maybe we'll put some polls out and see what everyone wants to do.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because I think we got to do it. So anyway, all right, let's just talk this next stretch. We're not going to go every single game here because we've already talked. But as you mentioned before the show, a week 6 bye, which is Sean McVay's earliest bye as head coach, correct?
Yep.
So his earliest bye. So leading into that, then you get 2 divisional games at Arizona, at home against the Niners, and then you travel to Chicago and you play the Packers. So you basically play the entire NFC North before the bye, minus the Vikings, and you get 2 divisional games. So what is your just thoughts on them getting into the bye with these 5 games? Do you like their odds as we are here in May going in with the winning record? Is this a tough draw, or was this kind of a good opening for this team?
Well, I think they're going to be competitive in each one of these games. I'll say that off the bat. But they have to start off fast. They have to start off just firing on all cylinders, because you got Lions contender, Cardinals, a better team, but
yeah.
Then you got Niners, Bears, Packers, all NFC contenders. Those are all teams that are going to be competing for playoff spots.
Yep.
So those are going to be tough competitive games, and they got to come out firing, because those are going to matter at the end of the season. Because they went on that stretch run after the bye week last year that got them into the playoffs. They were in control of their destiny. They just had to win games to get into the playoffs. If they drop some of these games early on, that might put them in the position to have to hope that other teams are going to lose. That hopefully the Bears are going to lose a game, or the Packers are going to lose a game, or the Lions. So that you want to put yourself in the position where you're in control of your destiny at the end of the season, and that actually for this year starts in the first 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Last season they didn't get off to a hot start. Usually McVay gets off to a hot start. And talking about the bye week, his previous earliest bye week was in 2022. So hopefully the early bye weeks is not a bad omen.
Yeah. Yeah. Good shout. I think it's a tough draw a little bit because, I mean, as you mentioned, literally Arizona, I don't think is a playoff team yet, but I think they were better last year than people thought too. I mean, the Rams were the true like Cinderella last year, but I think John Gannon and his staff, and with Kyler healthy and, getting Marvin Harrison Jr. and, I thought they had a good draft again. They're a good divisional opponent. And then outside of them, all 4 teams are playoff contenders, like you mentioned, with the Lions, Niners, Bears, and Packers. So, I mean, you do not want to go in the bye 1-4. Obviously, that's like doom and gloom. And obviously we saw what the Rams did last year, being 3-6 and then coming off the bye and going on their run. So certainly they can do it, but you got to have some good wins here against playoff contending teams. So, even if it's 2-3, that's not the end of the world, but you got to win at least one of those big playoff games. You got to beat Arizona. If you can get in there at 3-2 or 4-1, then you got through like the heavy meat in the beginning and good, because what's nice is then they get a little bit of relief coming off the bye. So you get the bye week, and then in 3 continuous weeks, you get the Raiders at home, you get the Vikings at home on Thursday Night Football, and you travel up to Seattle against the Seahawks. Always a tough foe divisional, but the Rams do typically play well in Seattle and kind of have their number. It also helped when they had Aaron Donald, so we'll see how they do without him. He had typically 8 against the Seahawks, but how do you like that 3-game stretch coming off the bye?
Yeah, and I would even extend out to the game 10 there. You've got 3 home games here and a quick trip up to Seattle. So that's going to be you've got home Packers, bye week, home, Seattle, home. So like in terms of traveling, this is going to be a nice stretch where they can sleep in their own beds a lot, rest and recover nicely. And then in terms of the opponents, Raiders and Vikings are going to be very, very beatable. I'm surprised they put the Vikings on Thursday Night Football.
Guess they want to see JJ McCarthy in LA, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. And then
or Sam Darnold, our guy.
We'll see. Yeah. And then I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Seattle. I've spent some time diving into their new offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, the similarities that Geno Smith and Jane Daniels have, just willing to air it out, throw it down the field. Still got 3 great receivers on that squad. Mike McDaniel, kind of reconstructing the Baltimore offense on the West Coast now with 2 new linebackers, safety. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent there, but I have an article up about it if anyone wants to read that one. So I think this is a key stretch where they're going to have to win. I think they need to go 3-0 through these games.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. And Mike McDonald, it's too close to Mike McDaniel, and they play back-to-back weeks. McDonald, Seattle. I think you said Mike McDaniel, or maybe I was just hearing that. I don't know, but
it's not fair that we got Mike McCarthy, Mike McDaniel, Mike McDonald.
Yeah, when literally the Rams play Seattle and Mike McDonald, and the very next week play Miami and Mike McDaniel. So anyway, but yeah, I mean he's kind of a coach. When you look at this coaching hiring cycle, he's the one. Him and we were talking about it yesterday. Now I'm trying to blank on his name. The guy Carolina hired, Canales.
Oh, Dave Canales. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like McDonald, who is obviously well respected and with the Ravens defense, but McDonald and Canales, I feel like are the 2 that are like the least talked about in this hiring cycle. So maybe it's just because there's the least unknown. They're kind of the newer, younger, upcoming guys. But certainly a defensive guru and a guy that can turn things around. And you mentioned Grubb. I mean, Grubb, he was on Washington's national championship offense that what we talked about yesterday, had 6 players drafted from that offense. So Grubb is certainly a respected offensive mind, and we'll have that thing humming. So yeah, and it's a divisional game. So, I mean, this is another tough stretch, an easier stretch. It's nice that after the bye, you get Raiders, Vikings back to back. And then you get the mini bye because you play Vikings Thursday night, mini bye to go up to Seattle, and you get the Dolphins at home, which is going to be a track meet. I mean, we're talking about 2 prolific offenses, and it'll be interesting to see because Miami obviously wants to move the ball fast, air it out. They got those speedy receivers, and the Rams now have almost pivoted to this just smash mouth. We're going to run the ball down your throat, at least based on personnel. We'll see if they actually do that, but that's what the personnel tells you. So it's going to be a really interesting kind of chess match between McVay and McDaniel in LA when they play the Dolphins. So moving on, and we'll do a prediction show later where we actually predict the records. So after the Dolphins, then you travel to the Patriots. You get the Eagles at home, and then you travel to New Orleans. So a lot of travel there, going to Boston area, coming back home to LA for the Eagles, and all the way out to New Orleans. Your thoughts on this stretch, week 11 through week 13?
Yeah, so you get that nice break from traveling too much to just being thrown kind of West Coast, East Coast, West Coast, New Orleans.
Yeah,
that's a hefty travel. a few weeks there. Eagles stand out here. I mean, that's the big game. I don't think the Patriots are going to take a huge step forward.
Yeah.
Who knows what the Saints are anymore? They seem like they're kind of in the shambles.
Yeah.
I didn't love the Eagles offseason. I found it a little bit confusing. I felt that they kind of overspent and taken on some dead money. So they're not going to be a bad team, I guess. But yeah, this is kind of a mixed bag, and I think if they can weather the storm in terms of just kind of that back and forth, I was saying that I think they're going to be fine through this stretch.
Yeah, this Eagles are going to be tough, obviously. And that's a Sunday night game, another primetime game. I forgot to mention the Dolphins was a Monday night game. So Eagles now is their fourth primetime game for the regular season. That's going to be tough, but this to me feels like a 3-0 stretch. Patriots and Saints should both be wins. And I think the Eagles, they get redemption from last year back at home, hopefully, and with the new kind of offensive line that they've assembled, and we'll see how that defense holds up against the likes of AJ Brown and some of their great talent. But this feels to me like it could potentially be a 3-0 stretch here, because then after that, I mean, you round the season out, it's pretty tough. I mean, 3 divisional games and Buffalo and the Jets. I mean, you got arguably 2 of the best quarterbacks in football. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers is truly like coming off the injury, and then 3 divisional games that are always, a coin toss. So you get Buffalo in week 14 at home. You travel up on a short week to Levi Stadium to place the Niners on Thursday Night Football. Always sadly, you almost have to chalk that up as a loss every year. That's what it's been. And then go from San Francisco, you get a mini bye. You go to New York to play the Jets. And then you round the season out at home, back-to-back weeks with the Cardinals and Seahawks. So, I mean, this is going to be an integral part of the season, as it always is down the stretch for this team to make the playoffs. But how do you like their chances with these 5 ones that literally are a toss-up, all 5 of them?
Yeah, Bills, Niners, Jets is gonna be a rough stretch. And going back to talking about the bye week, that early bye week is gonna play in heavily at this point in the schedule.
Yeah,
they're pushing towards the playoffs at this point. They're going to play 3 good to great teams that are going to be doing the same thing, and those bumps and bruises are kind of add up. And Sean McVay often uses that bye week to make some sort of pivot, change in his massive change on defense and or offense. So, that will have already taken place. So, yeah, I mean, this is probably the murderer's row if you're going to break it down into different sections. This is it. This is where their mettle is really going to be tested. And I think the Jets is probably the easiest. And we'll see what Rodgers is post injury in his later years. But this is a tough stretch.
Yeah. I mean, if we talk about the first 5 weeks of being a real gauntlet, which they are. This is just as tough, if not tougher, because it's at the latter part of the season after an early bye. I mean, that 3-week stretch, to me, this is like, we'll see. We don't know what their record's going to be going into it, but this to me is the defining 3 weeks of who this Rams team is. When you get the Bills, the Niners on a short week, and then the Jets. And, I hate playing the Niners on a short week, but it's nice that they get a little 10-day break between playing the Jets. They get like the mini bye, if you will. So, I mean, it's really going to show who they are. And then the 2 divisional games. I mean, if they go into that week 17 game around 500, I mean, that's going to be critical of how they finish the season against the Cardinals and the Seahawks. And if they win out, then they're probably in the playoffs. If they drop one or lose both, they're probably out of the playoffs, because the division is going to come down to, I mean, obviously the Niners and Rams are at the top, but the Seahawks, we don't really know. And we know that the Cardinals are climbing. So that 3-game stretch, though, to me, might be one of the toughest 3-game stretches in football this season. I haven't looked at everyone's schedule, haven't had time yet, but it feels like just on paper in May, when you look at Bills, Niners, Jets, I mean, that's pretty tough. So if they get out of that 2-1, I mean, this is a true contender.
Yeah, and you think weather-wise, they really lucked out, but they do have that December game in New York as well. So always fun to factor in the weather. In that time of the year on the East Coast.
Yeah, that's true. That's really their only potential really cold weather game is that week 16 at MetLife. They got week 11 in Foxborough.
That's like end of October.
End of October. So that potentially is cold, but that's it. I mean, they get Philly at home. They get Buffalo at home. Week 13, they travel to New Orleans. That's a dome. San Francisco, week 15. So, I mean, the other potential ones, Detroit, Chicago, are all beginning of the year. So they did luck out weather-wise. It's really just that New York Jets game, week 16, that could potentially be, snow flurries, if you will, which they played the Giants last year in week, was it 17 or 16 last year?
The Giants, I don't recall.
Yeah. It was the second or third last game of the season. And it was a cold one. Didn't snow, but it was a cold one that they got out early and let the Giants storm back and won on a missed field goal. So hopefully it'll be less drama and they can win outright. But yeah, that's a good point. They did luck out in terms of weather-wise.
They may luck out even more because they're playing San Francisco that week before, and that's kind of a rainy season in San Francisco, which Brock Purdy looks terrible in the rain.
That's true.
I've been thinking about it a lot. I want to develop like on skateboards, the grip tape. I want to develop a thing for quarterbacks that's like a peel off grip tape grip for rainy weather.
No.
Patent pending.
Yeah. I mean, they'd love it if we don't consider it cheating, but if the league approves it, that's great.
Those receiver gloves are basically like that.
Yeah, the receiver gloves now are literally stick 'em. I mean, it's insane how sticky they are. But
ever shake one of their hands?
Yeah, but they do, because maybe they're better now. I mean, I haven't played since high school, but when they get wet, they're like slick as a metal slide. So that's why they are terrible in the rain, because they get super slick. So a grip tape like skateboards, the water wouldn't matter. So that's a good thought.
Yeah. Oh, and I just got a correction from our producers. I mentioned Jaden Daniels as the quarterback for Washington. I meant Michael Penix.
Gotcha.
When I was referencing
Washington. Yeah,
Ryan Grubb.
Yeah, gotcha. Because Jaden Daniels is the quarterback of Washington, just the Commanders. I was like, what are we talking about? Yeah, so Washington Huskies,
University of Washington.
Yeah. Yes. So, I assume that's what you were talking about anyway. So, anyway, anything else to add about the schedule? Great release, great video, fun schedule. We now can move past the drama of the schedule and look toward kind of mini camp, OTAs, and training camp. But anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, five primetime games, so that's a lot of fun. It creates those short and long weeks, but you got to love it when they're on prime time.
Yeah, exactly. So I got nothing else. I thought I was going to add one more thing, but no, I think that's it. So, everyone, check out Skinny T's article dropping here today with all of the nuggets from the Rams release, because there was a lot of them. A lot of, he had to put the glasses on and slow it down frame by frame to catch everything. So a lot of work going into that. So make sure to check that out. We would appreciate it. Thank you all for listening and tuning in. Everyone have a great weekend. For Ryan Skinny T Anderson, I am Ryan Dyrud. Hope everyone enjoyed the schedule. We'll talk to you all next week.